Abraham, Elohim, Judaism, Elohim, your uncle.
Shalom! Another exciting edition of Torah Watchman show here, LLC. Your humble host here, Rev ben-Emmett. First of all, La Shana Tova. Yes, we're getting ready for the head of the year. Yes, celebrating the Bereshit, the beginnings of time and beginnings of the creation of the cosmos, heavens and the earth and everything else that Elohim was so sweet and kind to have done for all of us. Every living thing should be celebrating and singing like the Malakim and Shamaim in heaven and singing and praising God because of Bereshit, because we would not be here. I wouldn't have any conversation. We wouldn't have any debates about the Torah or anything else, right? We would not have an opportunity to learn anything new, right? We most importantly wouldn't have the opportunity for Teruah, for repentance and redemption and all these things. We're counting down at 10 days to Yom Kippur. So I have an interesting outtake for you, something a little bit different than typical Rosh Hashanah, which you can just Google and find everything about it. Nothing's really changed about the way we celebrate Rosh Hashanah as far as Orthodox Jews are concerned and other Reform and conservative Jews. The Ashkenazi stronghold is taking over all the ritualism and legalism of that. But I wanted to point out some key differences from the contextual perspective of Karaitism. And I have announced to you, whether you love or hate it, I'm a very proud Baal Teshuva Zionist Jew. I'm also a Karaite Jew. My family are unique, very unique in that respect, as minorities in Silver Spring, Maryland, where we call home, where we raise our little girl to be the best Jewish human being of this possible, right? So back to the message of Rosh Hashanah. First of all, wrap up. My target audience here are Nohites, the blessed Nohites, all over the world and growing strong, right? Primarily in Andhra Pradesh, India, where I give mitzvot to and to Dhaka and things of this nature to help a growing orphanage there. They call it the Nohak Foundation there. It's for widows and orphans, literally. And my brother Tiza there is doing a wonderful job. He needs your love and prayers. Also to the conservative, as I would say, the Jews in Africa and Uganda, Bethesda Synagogue, which they have given me the privilege and honor to represent them as their so-called rabbi, a virtual rabbi, rabbis without borders per se, for the second year in a row. And we're doing great infrastructure things for them. And I'm working my project manager there, the name of Isaac, and his beautiful wife and son. They just had a son. That's wonderful, right? So we're building a chicken farm, and hopefully we can incorporate goats in there too. Try to run chicken wire and stretch that wire around the perimeter with steel poles and concrete. It's not easy. I did this in a farm I grew up So I have that benefit, and I experience a little bit, at least, to give them advice and recommendations to the project manager there, community manager there. And of course, I teach Torah, and they listen to that. They go to my YouTube channel. I bought a phone for Isaac, a more advanced phone than he had before, so he can send me live video feeds for his people there. Same way with Tiza. They sometimes broadcast in their facility, in their buildings, the Torah Watchman on a monitor. But anyway, reaching out to no hides is very important to me. It's for some rabbis, some Orthodox rabbis, it's becoming very meaningful because they're actually listening to Elohim and obeying the Torah. That's what it's really about. As far as the other people out there, you could be Muslims, you could be Christians, you could be indifferent, you could be Orthodox Jews, you could Baltic Jew like me, trying to find north or south or whatever. It takes a while on that big, long journey. But, Rosh Hashanah means a lot of things for different types of Jews, sects of Jews. First of all, I'm from Orthodoxy many, many years, and I finally said enough is enough of the legalism, of the invention and innovative, even though it's quite imaginative sometimes. You get in the Talmud, get a Mishnah Torah, and you read all these different 2,000 or more rabbinical disputes and scribal disputes over simple, simplistic black and white truths from the Torah. It's amazing how you can get into this dry diatribe of round and round and we go, all the arguing and everything between Ramban and Rashi. It is entertaining because I like debates. But anyway, I want to share something with you quickly. You've probably seen this book before. This is known as a Matzor, okay? This is for Rosh Hashanah, and it's fairly lengthy. It is also bilingual, in, Hebrew and English here. What I'm saying is this is the Orthodox handbook of truth for Rosh Hashanah. They follow this book to the teeth, essentially. Every Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is 2 days, incidentally, for Jews in the diaspora. As an Ashkenazi tradition has been that way since the Middle Ages, at least. Karaite Jews differentiate with Rosh Hashanah being 1 day, is always the first of the 7th month, which of course is Tishrei if you're following the Babylonian calendar, which is a lot of the naming convention comes from idols. Yes, it really does. But that's incorporated and compromised in rabbinical Judaism. But, it's amazing the cultural and ritualistic differences between, say, Orthodox Judaism and, say, Karaite Judaism. That's what my converse is tonight. I'm going to be focusing more on Karaitism. There's very few people out there know anything about Karaitism. In fact, I've talked to some Orthodox friends, and they don't even know what a Karaite Jew is. They thought I was talking about martial arts or karate. No, I was not talking about that either. But anyway, it's a very long-winded affair in an Orthodox shul during Rosh Hashanah. You have limited work. There is afflicting your nefesh, your souls, as it says in the Torah, and that you cannot work. It is a complete rest, like a Sabbath. Incidentally, Rosh Hashanah falls on a Sabbath weekend for us, and it begins on the 15th, the calendar Gregorian day, September 15th. So in that evening, that's actually the first day of the 7th month, which is Tishrei. Most people know the 7th month at Tishrei, even though, believe it or not, in the Torah, it does not name one single month. Not one single month is called out in the Torah. Essentially, it says the 4th month, which is Nisan, for rabbinical. Karaite says essentially the 4th month, around the 1450, whatever, it's Pesach, and then they differentiate in customs and things like that. But Rosh Hashanah is focusing on this. You're in a shul pretty much all day long. You have delicious dairy kind of food, anything that's sweet, like a cheesecake, pomegranates. Some people like pomegranate; they're kind of bitter. I love pomegranate juice. It's expensive too. You crush those seeds and everything, gets juice out of the seeds. But my wife will make a lot of delicious dairy products. Not meat, not so much of meat, but anything. I guess you can have some chicken if you spice it up with prunes and plums and for apricots and things of that nature, jellies and jams. Anything that's sweet to the tongue and not bitter, like something with vinegar or horseradish. I love horseradish, but I have to part with that during Rosh Hashanah. So in America, this Jew is caught between the Ashkenazi part of me from my mother, Sephardi part of my father, and then caught in between the Karaite Jew warring with the Orthodox Jews that I left. It's blessed and sweet to have contrast, right? But as far as halakha is concerned, I will talk about briefly the differences between rabbinical interpretations of what Rosh Hashanah is and what it isn't, and Karaitism. First of all, Karaitism and for Rosh Hashanah is very minimalistic. Not many rituals, not many different customs per se. We do essentially the same things as Rabbinates without all the fanfare. Reading that long moxer I showed you, blowing the shofar 100 times, saying Teru'ah, Teru'ah, and all the different things. It tells you in a script, literally, you're reading a book, you're encouraged not to think for yourself. You're encouraged or mandated by the chief rabbi in most Orthodox shuls there to have a moxer. They provide it at the door. I have one in my library, I still have. It's very interesting. A lot of good prayers, a lot of penitent prayers like Selachot and things like that, beating of your chest, that kind of thing. And Karaite Jews do this too as well. But again, with all the legalism, all the isms, all the inventions of rabbinical Judaism, you see layered in there. Again, Rosh Hashanah is only one day for Karaite Jews, which are primarily in Israel today, since they migrated from Egypt, which is the main foundational base for Karaitism. Going back, I guess, since they left Crimea, in Russia, since they left that area, probably I would say 15th, 16th, 17th century they were there, and then they eventually left for Israel. The Aliyah to Israel was proved in the late 1960s and early 70s. Not germane to go into more detail, but the way they look at Rosh Hashanah, I was talking to my wife, going over the script here per se, off the cuff, about the many differences. Very interesting how the Karaite Jewish mind is so much different than the Orthodox mind in that they look at it the most logical, most pragmatic. You heard about Occam's razor, whatever is axiomatic, what the most critical truth from that sentence or phrase that's been said in the Torah. Listen, again, before I get started deeper here, quickly, Elohim worked through Moshiach, specifically, explicitly, no other prophet. He didn't speak to Aaron. He didn't speak to Miriam per se. At least not in the way he spoke to Moshe in face to face. Moshe did not have to go into a vision or go to sleep. Essentially, Elohim called him, and Moshe went. Or his cloud of his nefesh, his Shekinah glory, came to the tent of meeting and spoke to Moshe and put ideas and images in his head. It's so wonderful and sweet. What I'm saying is, you don't need a PhD. You don't need rocket science. You don't need to spend 4 years in yeshiva. And I'm not against the Torah study, but it's not Torah study, it's Talmudic and Mishrahic study. Another topic of another day. But essentially, Elohim would never mandate 613 mitzvahs for you if they were impossible to keep. And they were impossible to understand while buying dozens and dozens of tractates of the Talmud and all the Mishnah, derivatives of the Rashi and Ramban, Nachmanides, and all the others. They have their own Mishnah commentaries out there. Now, Karaites have we have sages too, of blessed memory. They have some commentaries too, but it's not so much. You can't fill a whole library shelf of them. I've collected several of them. A lot of them were written in Hebrew, Arabic per se, and they were later translated in English, and they still in the process of translating that. Some of it was written in the Qumran's scrolls per se that was retrieved from the Dead Sea. Some of these Masoret texts and things have a lot of these essays and other things like that. Not going to get into that. Just giving you some environmental context to understand what I'm talking about. So Rosh Hashanah for Orthodox rabbis and congregations alike It's a 2-day affair. In other words, it's critical for you to hear the blast of the shofar more than anything else. And to be thinking about atonement, about thinking about, correcting all those wrongs in your life, all the sins led up to the moment. You want to begin, you hear about New Year's resolution in America and other countries, what do I resolve for me this year? What do I want to do better than last year, right? Well, and in Orthodoxy, it is page after page after page of beating your chest and reading step by step of every possible sin that is possible that you could have committed in the last, say, 12 months, if it's not a leap year, okay? But I'm saying that's what it is. The thing is, it's so legalistic that you don't think for yourself. It's robotic in its nature. You have to read each page, flip the page, and actually most synagogues, Orthodox synagogues, actually have a page boy literally out there with a sign, and they have a page number to instruct you which page to turn to. And also it's a big money gamut too, to collect money to DACA, which is nice, but not $1, not one shekel I've ever contributed to DACA in a shul in that, or made a donation that. Have I ever seen accountability or one single financial statement what happened to that money? I've given a lot of to DACA leading up to this point personally, because Elohim laid it on my heart. I saw a need and I ran with it. Okay, I don't wait for a rabbi to say, ben-Emmett, you need to give to DACA this year, or you need to give to this thing. I gave a little bit to Chabad, simply because I use their website extensively. I use their knowledge base extensively, and they do some good things around the world. They do some. There's a lot of problems I have with Chabad. I'm not getting into that right now, but I do give to DACA to them because they help with orphanages and other things like that. Okay, and they help with lost Jews and bring them back to the fold, back to the tribe. I'm going to read to you out of a very good book. It's Introduction to Karaite Judaism. And I have referenced, I'm sorry, you're coming in my face. I've referenced some of this material here before in some of my videos. And there's a section here about holidays. And also, it provides the converse truth between Karaitism and Rabbinical Judaism. Now, to be honest with you, Karaitism had borrowed from Rabbinical Judaism, and I think Rabbinical Judaism has borrowed from Karaitism. In fact, Karaite sages, scribes, rabbis per se, are primarily responsible for the creation of the Masoretic text. Believe it or not, if it wasn't for Karaite scribes and sages and rabbis, you would not have the understanding of all the vowel pronunciation, things of that nature. Who knows if it's correct to this day, but I think the basic truth is there. So Rosh Hashanah has an older name, if you just read it from the Hebrew, and known as Yom Teru'ah. Literally, it means to shout. It can be blowing a shofar, but Karaite Jews depart from blowing the shofar like the rabbinical brethren, in that they don't blow the shofar at all. I was surprised when I researched this. I like to blow the shofar because I like the sound of it. And Kabbalistically, the oscillation of the sound, your eardrum and your mind, and the windows of your soul and everything else does things for you. I like to think of it as a battle cry. We read about how Eliyahu will blow the shofar blast of the four winds to call in the exiles in time of Mashiach. Of course, Yeshua brought down the walls of Jericho with the shofar, the trumpet, per se. And of course, those shofars during temple times, especially during the wandering in the wilderness of the Jewish people underneath the leadership of Moshe, was a silver trumpet. I think they coated it with silver. So its primary purpose was to call the people to ready their souls for repentance. And getting the 10 days of atonement leading up ultimately to Yom Kippur. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit here. Moshe, Jehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to Israel, the Israelite people, thus in the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, you shall observe a complete and solemn rest." And when they say complete rest, they use the word Sabbath there as well. That's where Sabbath comes from. It's not just 7th day. It means to rest, okay? It's a sacred occasion commemorated with shouting. Excuse me, I have a cough lately. Teru'ah essentially means shouting. It means with excitement, with joy. Many people shout at a NFL football game or for their favorite team, or college football, high school football, whatever. They get so excited, they shout. But during the time of Rosh Hashanah, is a day of blowing the shofar. It was only one day in the Torah. That's why Karaite Jews only celebrate Rosh Hashanah one day. 2 days for Orthodoxy in respect to Ashkenazim and Sephardim. Essentially, we are in the diaspora. Most of the Jewish people are in the diaspora. Many of them because of their own choices, in exile, self-imposed exile, and they're in multiple time zones. Again, in Orthodoxy, they want everyone to be able to hear the shofar blown 100 times. You know, that is the mantra, that is the ritual for Orthodoxy. You know, Karaite Jews don't blow the shofar at all. Why? Because there's no temple. There's no purpose to gathering the Jewish people for a pilgrimage to Jerusalem for animal sacrifices and atonement. It doesn't exist in Jerusalem for various political reasons. I get into that. But they don't blow the shofar. But they do the celebrating and they do the shouting. They do the festivities. In fact, it's a tradition to go and visit your grandparents if they're still alive, or even if they're passed away, to visit them in the cemeteries, visit your mother and father, cousins and aunts and uncles and things like that. Just nice, good deeds, being friendly. Because when you start a new year, you want to start off, on the right foot, right? If you argued with your first cousin because of political differences last year, and to the point you would just not pick up the phone and ever call them anymore, blocked them on Facebook because you got in such a horrible argument, this is a time to hit the reset button and give love a chance, right? That's what Karaite Jews do here. So it says repetitively that, in case you forget, Rosh Hashanah is always the first day of the 7th month. In others, it's Rosh Chodesh. I saw the very thin crescent moon, very low in the east early this morning, because I had to go to work very, very ungodly early. And I saw that. It's very rare to see the crescent moon that small. Of course, we're getting into new moon and things of that nature. And of course, it'd be a whole new moon cycle, lunar cycle, and Karaite calendar systems based on the lunar cycle, okay, primarily. So the shouting of the Teru'ah, and you picture this like in a stage. I try to get my wife to picture this, and I like thinking about that multicolored Mishkan, in the desert, the Holy Holies there, the cloud of Elohim, Shekinah glory circling above there, the bright light and fire at night and things of that nature. So during the time of Rosh Hashanah, people are getting very excited the first thing in the morning and praying and things of this nature. They say the Shema prayer, and then they're shouting Teru'ah, 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 very loud. And at some point, that is a trigger for the Kohen Gadol to blow that silver trumpet to announce to people, quiet yourselves, get ready to bring your sacrificial offerings if you have them, the last minute things there. Make sure you get yourself right. Make sure you've taken a bath and you have clean clothes. Levites had to be in white clothes, and they had to be very clean. In fact, the more the detail about Rosh Hashanah in the Torah is about cleanliness, the cleanliness rule for the Kohen Gadol leading up to the 10 days of atonement. But the main thing, the cleanliness, act of cleanliness, also the act of animal sacrifices, because I'm not going to get into a lot of detail here. You can read about this in Bamidbar, Book of Numbers and Leviticus, about all the different types of animals and the sequence of those animal sacrifices that would be offered on Rosh Hashanah is different than any other holiday. It's what made it unique. But again, Teru'ah, shouting, was a trigger to the Kohen Gadol to blow the shofar blast, and Teru'ah also can mean the blowing of a loud trumpet or shofar. And you can ask my daughter, I blow the shofar mightily loud, because I enjoy waking up my neighbors and let them know there's a Jew in your neighborhood. Right? And I have not been hated for that. I have a lot of fun. So all kinds of noise created by musical instruments back in the day, and a lot of people they had during the ancient Mishkan days in the desert, especially. Probably King Hezekiah the same way, King Solomon the same way, maybe King David. David before that, a lot of shouting, timbrels, drums, and all kind of musical instruments. However, all of that comes to an end today because we don't have a temple. We don't have animal sacrifices. We're all ceremonially unclean. There's no red heifer that's being approved by chief rabbinate in Israel at this time, even though in Shechem they have a place where they have red heifers there. They're not approved yet. We have 5 mosques of Har Habib that's limiting factors there. We don't want to cause another Islamic jihad, right? But anyway, there all this noise and shouting and everything else is kept to a low timbre on Rosh Hashanah, especially in Karaites shuls. Traditionally, if Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, you don't even hear the shofar. In fact, if I went to an Orthodox shul this weekend, which I do not plan to, and go to my local conservative shul, which has a wonderful partnership with Karaite shuls around the world and Karaite Jews around the world. It's the closest thing I have. There's no Karaite synagogues anywhere except in San Francisco, where the American headquarters is, not beside the point. But the requirements of Yom Teru'ah, again, the malakah, you're allowed to make food per se. However, you have to fall under the malakah as far as the work, 39 malakot per se on Shabbat. If it's on Shabbat, you don't work. So you prepare all the meals ahead of time. In fact, my wife is having company over since this is a week leading up to a high holiday. Rosh Hashanah is a high holiday. It's a Hag. It would be Saturday on Shabbat would be a Hag, literally beginning Friday evening at sunset. So when Shabbat begins, you're already in the Hag mode. And in Orthodoxy, you light a holiday candle. But in Karaite homes, you do not light any ha'esh, you don't light any flame at all, because of their strict interpretation of the Torah, which you will cause no fire to occur in your private residences. That's what it says. Who's wrong or right? I don't know. Are we going to wait on Mashiach to clear that up? Or you just use common sense? I don't have fire in your home. But essentially. But anyway, the services held in synagogue for the holiday. Everyone is dressed in their finest clothes. They're having a lot of fun. Friends and family are there. Boys and girls are there. And you're reading different Torah sections, like in Bereshit, Leviticus. The main thing is the story of the birth, the promise of the birth of Isaac to Abraham and Sarai, and the biting of Isaac when the ram was caught by its shofar horns at the bush that prevented Abraham to carry out the sacrifice of his only son there. Of course, Elohim does not believe in human sacrifices. Anyway, those things are beginning moments, milestones, that kind of thing. Just like the reception of the 10 Commandments of Mount Sinai was a beginning milestone moment, beginning of a new opportunity for atonement, teshuvah, and things of this nature. So a lot of these messages are read in the synagogue during this time. In fact, there's no Torah parashat for Rosh Hashanah weekend because it falls on Shabbat. It actually, the Sidra, whatever the Sidra portions are traditionally read for Rosh Hashanah, takes priority over traditional Torah cycle. Okay, that's just the way it is. Customs are very few and far between, and Karaitism associated with that. Mainly, there is a ritual, and I told my wife about this. Yom Teru'ah is how Karaites say. They don't say Rosh Hashanah. As a vegetable, as a green or myrtle leaves, as included, over which a special blessing is made, apart from the regular blessings like challah and bread and hagafen and fish and things of this nature, whatever prayers you have for that. As a presentation of that, you think about the Sukkot and the species and everything that goes into that. We're thinking about these kind of offering things like that, the special prayer for this. Okay? There's other additions made up in prayers, mainly penitent prayers, salachot, if you want to pronounce it that way, or included in a small little prayer book. In fact, the Karaite prayer book that I've been trying to look for is actually public domain, and it's a PDF, and you can download the whole thing. I'm going to make a book out of that. Karaite rabbis and publication agencies and supporters of that, contributors, do not spend a lot of time and effort publishing a lot of books. Why? Because we have the Torah. Why do we need to publish a lot of people's opinions versus reading the good book, right? Now, to be fair, we have our sages of blessed memory. We'd read their Midrashic studies. Even Ramban compared that to some of Karaitism before. There were healthy competition with that. But there's not a lot of different publications. Most of it's historical, like the history of Karaite Jews in Egypt, okay? I want to just touch on something even more vitally important than Rosh Hashanah. Again, it's just one day in Karaite Judaism, primarily because that's what the Torah says, okay? There's something, Yom HaKippurim, is actually the Hebrew word in the Torah for Yom Kippur. We call it Yom Kippur. In Torah, it's Yom HaKippurim, and the 10 days. We're already thinking about this. We actually have Salakot. I have a Salakot book, and it's 1 through 10 days. You read the Amidah prayers. You have the penitent prayers there, the beating of the chest, and we read this in addition to afternoon and evening prayers. Karaite Jews pray twice a day because of what Torah says. The Chakris, and of course the Mincha prayers, which another Shema, and Kaddish and other things of this nature. So you have differences of that. I do want to point out that there's a lot more detail for Yom Kippur than Rosh Hashanah, and most of the detail is wrapped around the idea of have a Kohen Gadol priest governing everything, and that's actually what happened in the Torah. You read about the scapegoat, Aziel, it's called, and one goat was actually sacrificed for atonement. The other goat literally took the sins of the Jewish people away to be destroyed in the wilderness. There's a lot of different interpretations and commentary and the Zohar and things like that. I want to get into all that. It's not really germane for this video, but Yom Kippur, you immediately start thinking about Yom Kippur when Rosh Hashanah ends on the following sunset. So Rosh Hashanah, for instance, in Karaitism, ends this Saturday evening. However, in Orthodoxy and Ashkenazim, in Sephardim, and in Orthodoxy circle, Rabbinates, the ceremony ends Sunday evening, okay? So, but anyway, you start thinking about the 10 days because there's actually a clock that ticks. There's something precisely equal in between Karaitism and Rabbinical Judaism. It said it's also 10 days because it says in the Torah. 10 days to atonement, to the scapegoat, Aziel, to the sacrifice offering, to the red heifer, for cleansing, the cleansing ceremony that was so important. But most of the detail in Yom Kippur applied to Levites than compared to other tribal Jews, okay? So we cannot institute that anymore because we don't live in Israel, we don't have a temple, and we don't have certified kosher animal sacrifices ready in line to be sacrificed, with the different altars and everything else that the Torah says, and that Elohim said very clearly, build me a Mishkan, build me an Ark of Covenant, build me a menorah, build me a brazen altar, build me an altar of incense. Well, we are very disobedient in that, right? And if you ask many rabbis today why we don't have these things, they said they're waiting on the Mashiach. I'm not kidding you. And that's about it, without going into another video for Yom Kippur. But I just wanted to point out to you, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, however you want to call it, is our high holiday, just like Pesach. Pesach is actually talked about in more detail than any other holiday in Karaitism and compared to to rabbinical Judaism, even though they're equally important. But there's more documentation, more rituals and custom based on living in Egypt all that time. So, but as far as Rosh Hashanah, 1 day for Karaite Jews, 2 days if you're a Rabbinate. Rabbinates blow the shofar. This time they have to blow it on Sunday after Shabbat. So, based on tradition, halakha, as we interpret it, you don't make any noise, you don't make any musical instruments, because that's considered creating something. And Shabbat, even Shabbat is about creation too. It really is. The seventh day after creation occurred. Rosh Hashanah is about celebrating about creation, the glory of Adam and Havilah, the Garden of Eden, the creation of man, the transforming us from a golem creature through having a nefesh with literally a shofar blast of our soul coming into us from Elohim. The breath, that's essentially what nefesh means, the breath and the spirit of God immersing itself into us. Is wonderful thinking like that. But anyway, I just want you to have a wonderful Shabbat coming up. I want whoever, you're Karaite Jew, Orthodox Jew, Conservative Reform, Reconstruction, whatever you call it, Ultra-Orthodox, whoever you are out there, Christian, Noahide, indifferent, whatever. If you're watching this video, thank you for watching it. I want you to have a wonderful Lashana Tova. That's what we say to our friends when we see them. Happy New Year. And one thing in the exile, you get to celebrate New Year twice. Which one is the real New Year? Only Elohim could say, and it's in the Torah. Well, Shalom Aleichem, Reb Yara ben-Emmett signing out. Please share the knowledge and wealth and love and truth if everyone is willing to hear it. If they want to hear you, what changed the way you're messaging? Why don't you live that truth for a while and show people what kind of fruit you're bearing compared to the fruit they're bearing, instead of judging them. It's so easy to judge. And by the way, in Rosh Hashanah, we ask for forgiveness for the evil tongue, right? For judging someone wrongly. I mean, I don't want to get into Lashon Hara and all this, but essentially the messaging of goodwill, and I just want to give you here, right that wrong if you can, especially with a family member. And I'm speaking to myself. I've spoken to my brother or sister in years. Why? I haven't spoken to my father. He just doesn't call me anymore. I did some things that I have control of, some things I don't. I'm not going to allow it to make me miserable inside, because I have your love radiating to me through this video. I just feel your love, brothers and sisters, I really do. All kidding aside, I want you to have a happy New Year. I want you to think about the 10 days of penance and atonement, teshuvah, and things that you need to do to clean up your life. Try to get away from legalism, okay? Legalism will never save you. A rabbi giving you a blue pill will not save you. There's only one thing that can save you. It's penitent prayers. Even Elohim said before, after all the struggles to maintain temple sacrifices and the cleanliness and admonishing the Jewish people to not be seduced by polytheistic worship around them, all of this, he said, at the end of the day, what I want is your prayers, contrite, sincere, giving charity to those you've wronged. You can read about this in Ezekiel, chapter 18, verse 20, 21, 23. It's that simple, folks. He desires your prayers, your penitent heart of wanting forgiveness, acknowledging you've sinned. Get on your face sometimes and ask for forgiveness and try it. It's immensely important for a man to fall on his face and admit, I've been a dog, I'm wrong, I've sinned against heaven and earth in front of your wife and family. Try it sometime, it's very humbling. Anyway, take care, I love you so much. Please share my YouTube video, click like and personally notify. You can reach me at ben-Emmett at gmail.com. I'm also on podcast, Spotify, if you want to reach out to me that way too. And you can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm blogging with different Karaite pages there. I have an autistic daughter, autistic pages there. You can reach me any question about anything. I'm more than happy to answer your questions the best way I know how. God bless you. Take care and Happy New Year.